And I'm Kat, and welcome to the Crime Chat. I am your forensic femme fatale. Natalie is your true crime addict connoisseur.
We're just two normal girls obsessed with dark crimes, evil minds, and occasionally the unknown.
And here's a disclaimer, chatters. The following crime chat will contain adult content and descriptions
Mhm.
of violent scenarios
Oh,
today, so your listener discretion is advised.
you've been warned. But before we get into today's crime chat, Kat, what have you done? No, you've done a lot. I mean, a lot has been done to you too.
A lot has happened over the last several weeks since we recorded. We kind of got ahead last month because I had back surgery. I am recovering. I'm on par. I went to my post-op last week and I'm on par with where I'm supposed to be. I just have this lovely adornment of a brace around my
Hmm.
back. It's beautiful.
But you're
It's
but you're feeling
beautiful.
better.
I'm feeling better. I told you earlier, it's not growing pains, it's healing pains because
Yeah.
I know my body's healing and like readjusting. One
Hmm.
thing I don't think I had told you was one of the doctors on the surgeon's team came in to see me before I got discharged because I stayed overnight. So came to see me the next day and before I got discharged, just to kind of explain how surgery went, what they did, and everything like that. He's like, "Well, I think I made you a little taller." I'm
Really?
not by much. I mean, the little spacer that they put in there is like, eek, but hey,
Listen, chatters, when I first met Kat, I knew you for about a year before I met you, right?
yeah, maybe a little bit more
And,
in a year, yeah.
and I didn't realize how short she was until I met her. But you were like, my height, like 5'6", 5'7". And when I met Kat, you're like 5'4". I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
God, little Kit Kat. Oh my Lord.
I was, I say fight
Personality for
for.
days. Yeah, your person.
Well, I always said 5'4" on a good day because I got one leg shorter than the other leg, so it depends on the leg I'm standing on. But of course, with back issues and the compression over time, you do lose
Hmm.
some height, but
Yeah,
I might have gained that height back. I could be
there
more
you go.
confident in my 5'4" heights. But yeah, everything went really well. The doctors are fantastic. The treatment and like follow up and everything that from the hospital stay all the way through has been really, really good. And
Yeah.
I'll be pretty much good to go in a year. He told me a
Okay.
year is when like he'll follow through all the way through to a year before I get like completely released.
Right.
A year doesn't take too long. It's right around the corner.
Right. And you're
Yeah.
you're now you're the bionic Kit Kat.
I'm
So
getting there because next is my knee replacement.
we can rebuild her.
So with that significant downtime that I've had, I have
Mm.
been binging a lot.
Okay. Yes, I bet. What anything
Yeah.
good? Anything new?
So I think I told you last time School Spirits came out with the second season, and I watched that,
Okay.
and it was really good. It is only 6 episodes, so I felt like, but it's definitely teasing like for another season. I want to say season one might have only been like 6 or maybe 8 episodes,
Hmm.
kind of on the shorter end, but it was really good. It picked up right where a lot of it makes sense. Very supernatural, very, science fiction, and I love it.
I've never heard of it.
So I think it's on Paramount. It originally came, oh. But I did notice that the first season is on Netflix because Chris and I were watching something last night and I was like, "Hey, there's School Spirits." And I got him to watch it. Well,
Huh?
he fell asleep through the first episode. He's like, "But I do want to watch it." So I'm like,
Right.
"Well, we'll watch it over." I mean, it's worth a rewatch. We did watch another series and I want to say it was on Stars
Uh-huh.
called The Couple Next Door, and it's got the lead character who's the lead character on Outlander, the Irish guy.
Oh wow, he's good
Wait, no, no,
looking.
no, not
Okay.
Irish. He's Scottish. Oh, sorry.
Scottish.
Sam Houghton. Sam Houghton. I don't know how
Okay.
to say his name, but he's the lead character on there. Didn't really recognize anybody else. And basically, it's about obviously the couple next door. It takes place in England, love.
Hmm.
And this new couple moves in, and anywhere between affairs, swinging, violence, like sex lies and videotape, man.
Well, they have to do that with the character like that. He's so good at it.
Yeah.
And he's got such a following of women that just want him to take his clothes off. I mean, so
Oh, wow, he does. He
he's
sure does. But it was a really good series. I want to say that it's 8 episodes, 9 episodes maybe, and
Okay.
they teased it enough to leave it open, but
Hmm.
also to close it. And I read something that said if they do come back for another season, what they're doing right now is they're changing the characters but keeping the storyline the same. So it'll be a
Okay.
different couple next door. Maybe it'll take place in a different country kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Okay.
But
Yeah.
like that interaction.
Mm.
Then there's another movie that Chris and I watched, which is new on Netflix called The Gorge.
Hmm.
Alexa, who's the lead character in The Gorge?
On Screenrant.com. Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy lead the gorgeous cast as Levi and Drasa, two private contractors and elite snipers who take the job to guard an undisclosed, mysterious location.
Yeah.
Do you know that if you say to Alexa, Simon Says,
Mhm.
she has to say everything you just say?
Alexa, Simon Says.
If you want me to repeat something you said, say Simon Says and then immediately say what you want me to repeat.
Yeah.
Alexa,
so.
Simon Says, hello, kitty.
Hello, kitty.
Alexa, Simon Says, go fuck yourself.
Go yourself.
She pointed out.
Yes. Alexa, she's got a side to her.
I love it. It reminds me of like when Siri first came out and,
Yeah.
Apple and all that stuff with the Siri. Remember
Mhm.
playing around with Siri and everything on it. Oh my gosh. So the Gorge, do you know any? It's on Netflix. I recommend watching it. It's not very scary. It's intense.
Okay.
It's got some super weird creepiness to it. It does give me The Last of Us vibes,
Okay.
but with a whole other twist. Like
All right.
they
I
shouldn't
will.
have survived weird.
Oh, okay.
And then I finished The Umbrella Academy, all 4 seasons. So
How was it? I still haven't
yes,
started. I have to start.
so good. The ending made sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those series that you can't just kind of like pick up in the middle of. You really it all flows from one to the next. Basically, they've saved the world from the apocalypse and
Right.
all these different things each season. So in the fourth season, there's a twist, but it makes sense. They're not coming back. I do know that. They're not going to
Uh-huh.
be doing another
Oh.
one. But I was talking to my older son about it, and he's like,
Mhm.
the drummer, I believe he said, My Chemical Romance is the
I
one
love
who
him.
wrote the comic and
Mm.
illustrated the comic of the Umbrella Academy. I
Oh,
was like,
okay.
I did not know that. Yeah. Yeah. So he told me about that because we were talking about the Umbrella Academy. I asked him if he's seen it because he's into that kind of stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that he hadn't, but told me that little fun fact.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm like, oh,
Very cool.
and the reason why he wrote it, I guess, and it was before he got into My Chemical Romance. He was doing like comics and graphics and was trying to make some money. And
Mm-hmm.
then the band thing worked out, kicked off, hella
Mm-hmm.
good, successful. Well, they ended up adapting his comic into the series.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
I
yeah.
can't believe you just said hella.
Oh,
Hella. That was
hella good.
wicked. That was wicked.
I was thinking about this the other day. Okay. Terms that we used growing up and how it's
Uh-huh.
changed. I,
Right.
I don't know if you saw, I posted it's Riz from the Grease
Mm-hmm.
and
I didn't see the post, but I know the character.
right? And the meme on top of it, it says, when people ask me about Riz, this is what I think of. Like, but of course, you know, how it is, Riz now means charisma. But I was thinking about this the other day and I'm like, what was some of the stupidest things that like I didn't realize what the words meant or like what we used?
Oh.
And I specifically remember being, I don't know, 12, 13, maybe, might have been like end of middle school, beginning of high school. And I said something to my mom's friend about, I said, oh, that's kinky. And he looked at me like, you know what that means, right? And I was like, I'm thinking like kinky, like cool, like,
Right.
vibing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's rad.
Yeah.
And he's like, he told me, and I was like, I probably turned 5 shades of red. I was like, I had no idea. Like, that was just my interpretation of the word. Totally used it out of context, but language is fun. Yeah, that's about all. It's been a lot,
Hmm.
but how about you?
Well, have you ever heard of a movie called Watership Down?
Have not.
Okay. we are definitely crafted differently. Like our
Mhm.
generation is
Mhm.
definitely crafted differently than other
Yeah.
generations. And I think
Yeah.
we just have this weird way of handling trauma or just dealing with trauma in any form.
Mhm.
Maybe we're a little tougher, maybe we're just a little crazier. I don't know. But if you ever want to take a deep dive into what our psyche, Gen
Yeah.
X psyche, just watch the Watership Down.
Okay.
So I grew up on this movie. It's based on Richard Adams' 1972 novel. It came out in like 1974, the original
Mhm.
movie.
Mhm.
And it's an animation. It's got rabbits, cat. It's
Oh.
all animation,
Oh.
but it's based on war. And
With animation.
it's a bloody mess. And I was like, I remember watching this when I was like 6, 7 years old.
Yeah.
It was always on and never thought of it. Parents never thought it was wrong. It was originally rated a G rating, which later changed. I think in the early 2000s, it went to an R. That's how graphic it is.
It's banned in New York schools right now.
Crazy. So it's just a bunch of rabbits like fighting for freedom, and it's a journey that they're going across like English land, like these hills, rolling hills. It's beautiful. I mean, the symmetry and the artwork is beautiful, but it's a bloody mess, and it's all based on war. The Richard Adams also did a movie called The Plague Dogs, which that came out in 1977, which I will
Mhm.
not watch. It's about two dogs that escape a testing facility, an animal
Oh.
testing facility. Yeah, no,
Is that animated also?
yeah,
Okay.
which makes it even sadder, you know?
Yeah.
And then they did redo Watership Down, which I recommend. I believe it's on Netflix now. It's not as good as the first one, it's less bloody. Okay. The artwork is so much different. I feel like the 1972 version and 1973 version is so beautiful in a way. You have to watch it at least once in your life because the artwork
Okay.
is really extraordinary and the story is amazing. But the bloodshed, and I'm sitting there and I couldn't believe it was rated G. Like I did
We didn't
anybody
we
realize this was too harsh for children to
we
watch?
barely had the rating. I mean, there wasn't a PG-17. There wasn't that. It was G, PG,
For everybody. For E. It was
R,
E.
E.
Sorry. E back then
E.
it was E for
Yeah.
everybody. But there's a YouTube like episode. I forgot who did it. I don't know who did it, but he's a critic. So he just kind
Mhm.
of looks at movies and he grades them and stuff. And he said that one of his episodes is called Why Gen X is So Screwed Up and it's Watership Down's fault.
Oh, it's
He's
got Nicholas Hoult in it and James McAvoy are voices.
voices. It's an amazing
Yeah, for the
movie.
new one, the 2018 CGI animated TV miniseries that's based on the 72 novel of the same name. It was
Mhm.
released on Netflix and BBC. The first film was animated in 1978. That
Okay.
was based on the 72 novel. Yeah. Interesting.
I would recommend watching the original because I mean, we're old enough now.
Yeah. Sometimes I watch some things that I'm like, I watched this as a kid, just like
No,
that. Like,
I know.
for
I'm
some of
like,
the innuendos that you pick up on, you're like, I had no
mm.
idea. I
The
mean,
Simpsons
yeah,
are known for that. I mean, that is
yeah,
adult cartoon, but
yeah.
you don't
That's
know.
funny.
So that's about it. That's all I did.
Yeah.
I did paint my room 3 times Friday, Saturday, and Sunday 2 weeks ago because I ordered a can of paint. They gave me the wrong paint, but I didn't realize till after I painted my room because it's kind of like a shade difference.
Sure. And
Went
sometimes
back,
when it dries, it's
it's weird.
different. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought it was because I only put one or two coats on it. I needed to put another coat. So I went back, got another can to put a third coat to get the color. They gave me the other shade, the correct shade. So I painted two different shades of like a gray and didn't realize till it was I have a picture. It's a mess. And then I painted again.
Oh my
And
gosh.
the last day everything turned out well, but man, painting it you use muscles that you didn't realize you had.
Yeah.
So
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
That's
Well,
it. That's my boring life.
we're gonna
Nutshell.
we're gonna be painting soon. I think we
Mm,
decided to paint ourselves.
hmm
Not paint ourselves, but like paint the house ourselves.
Yeah, yeah.
Instead, not paint each other instead of paying somebody to do it. But at the same time, you know, you pay somebody
hmm
else to do it, especially because we're looking to sell our house at some point.
hmm
That more professional would be better.
Yeah.
So the other thing is we need to paint our cabinets.
Mm-hmm.
We can't, like, we're not going to be able to do that. We need to have somebody professionally do it anyways,
Mm-hmm.
but having them do our cabinets versus our entire house plus cabinets
Yeah. Yeah.
might be a little bit of a price difference. Well, you mentioned for an intro to your story today about touching kind of on grooming, and I did have to clarify you meant sexual grooming and not like dog grooming.
Yes. Yes.
And just by that clarification, it sounds like it's going to be a pretty dark story today,
Mm-hmm.
despite all of the kitties, Hello Kitty accents that we have.
Mm-hmm.
Well, grooming incorporates manipulative behaviors that an abuser uses to gain access to potential victims, coerce them to agree to the abuse, and reduce the chances of getting caught. It can happen either in person or online and usually employed by a family member or someone within the victim's circle of trust. This circle of trust could be like a coach, a teacher, youth group leader, or others who have
Mm-hmm.
a natural interaction with the victims.
Mm-hmm.
Though grooming can take many different forms, according to RAINN, the Rape Abuse Incest National Network, it often follows a similar pattern. Here are some of note. Victim selection. Abusers often observe possible victims and select them based on the ease of access to them or their perceived vulnerability. Next is gaining access and isolating the victim. Abusers will attempt to physically or emotionally separate a victim from those protecting them or often seek out positions in which they have contact with minors. Again, teacher, coach,
Mm-hmm.
youth leader. Next is trust development and keeping secrets. Abusers attempt to gain trust of the potential victim through gifts, attention, sharing, quote unquote secrets. This is our little secret. And other ways that make them feel like they have a caring relationship in order to train them to keep the relationship secret. The next one is desensitization to touch and discuss of sexual topics. So abusers will often start to touch a victim in ways that appear harmless, such
Mm-hmm.
as hugging, wrestling, tickling, and then later escalate that to increasingly more sexual contact, such as massages, showering together. Did you watch Baby Reindeer?
Yes.
That I'd like as I'm describing that, the Baby Reindeer is like popping in my head.
Mm-hmm.
The guy that was his drug buddy gained the trust because he was trying to become an actor and like gain, oh yeah, I can get you in. While abusers may show the victim pornography or discuss sexual topics together to introduce the idea of sexual contact. And then the last one is attempt by abusers to make their behavior seem natural. And this is to avoid raising suspicions. Now, for teens who may be closer in age to the abuser, it can be particularly hard to recognize tactics used in grooming.
Mm-hmm.
And just be alert for signs that your teen has a relationship with an adult that includes secrecy, undue influence or control, or pushes personal boundaries. And a lot of times you could see that like with rebellious females, like 15,
Mm-hmm.
16, 17, who are, fascinated by an older man, have this relationship. Of course, they want to keep it
Yeah.
away from their parents.
They got daddy issues.
Statutory
Mm-hmm.
rape. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
before the term grooming was associated with grooming a child for sexual abuse, it actually had more of a meaning of mentorship, coaching, or preparing someone for leadership. From 1975 to 1985, law enforcement became increasingly aware of child sexual abuse that happened to children from outside of their family, but was still committed by those who were not strangers. So the stranger danger awareness campaign at the
Mm-hmm.
time focused on threats of violence to ensure victims' compliance, which usually came from a stranger, the man driving the white van, the we've covered so many cases like this. The
Mm-hmm.
child abduction where he's like, I'll take you, I've got some bubble gum and some ice cream. Your
Yeah.
mom said you can go. I
Yeah.
watched the other thing I watched last night, but Chris and I were watching Netflix is Lost in the Fire.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 2-episode documentary on Netflix
Mm-hmm.
about she was 16 at the time, she went missing, and she was adopted. So 20 something years later, the biological mom gets a letter in the mail saying, we have under record that you are the biological mom of this person. It was a closed adoption, so she didn't know
Mm-hmm.
where her daughter went or anything like that. And it said, your biological daughter has gone missing, and we have recently found a body. Law enforcement are asking for your DNA
Oh my
to
God.
see if we can positively identify this person.
Oh,
Huge twist. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but that's how it starts.
wow.
And there is an involvement of a serial violent offender who
Mhm.
at one point used this method to of strangers. It wasn't ones that they knew, but like lure people in to his van or to wherever he was going, like,
Yeah.
you know,
There's
put,
so many cases.
yeah. Oh
The
yeah.
one that we did Lolita, which is a
Yeah.
famous case where somebody with candy was like, "Hey,
Yeah.
I spoke to your mom. She said you can go with me."
Yep, exactly.
Mm.
As Michael Rich, the director of the Center on Media and Child Health at Boston Children's Hospital, he said the whole stranger danger movement did more to create anxiety in children than it did to protect them. And
Mhm.
if you turn everyone you don't know into danger, you live in a pretty scary world. And I remember that like growing up, don't talk to strangers, you know. And I
Yeah,
mean, there is a lesson in that,
of course.
but
Yeah.
that as a campaign pretty much overlooked or you weren't able to see the grooming efforts of people that actually knew them grooming and everything underneath because they're expecting it more from strangers, not somebody that a child or a teenager would know or even be related to. So these new patterns emerged where abusers manipulated their victims with a combination of attention, affection, kindness, gifts, alcohol, drugs, money, privileges, anything, you name it. Abusers are often charming, kind, and helpful, and exactly the type of behavior that we would value in a friend or acquaintance, especially if we are having acceptance issues mentally at that age, thinking like teenager, right? Like, I just want to be accepted. I just want people to like me.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
Vulnerable.
yeah, vulnerable. There you go. Rain then said parents should talk to your kids about the risks and boundaries and make sure that they know that they can come to you if anyone crosses a line, which also includes online. Online grooming often involves adults creating fake profiles and posing as children's or teens in order to befriend somebody and gain their trust. This may be the first step towards sexual abuse or online stalking or even harassment. Pedophiles and predators use online grooming to carry out cybersex trafficking crimes as well. After the pedophile gains trust from a local cybersex trafficker, often a parent or a neighbor of the victim, the online sexual exploitation will then take place. Online grooming of minors is most prevalent in relation to the 13 to 17-year-old age group, which is understandable because there are enough freedoms and enough like independence to do that and want to be at that's what people are doing. That's what kids do their age, right?
Yeah.
That actually covers 99% of the cases. And
Wow.
then specifically, because that was 13 to 17, well, 13 to 14 is half of that, is at 48%. The majority of targeted children are girls, and most victimization occurs with mobile phones.
Mm.
Gotta check your kids' cell phones.
Uh-huh.
Children and teenagers who are highly curious and high sensation seeking are at a higher risk. You and I and everyone, chatters, can help kids and teens be safer by learning the warning signs of abuse at RAINN, RAINN.org, and to
Yes.
report sexual abuse of a child or teen, whether it has occurred in person or online, visit childhelp.org. So I hope
Yes.
that helped set you up for this, what seems to be a pretty interesting case.
Yeah, it's a dark one. Thank you for
Hmm.
that. It's heartbreaking. And yeah, protect your girls, protect them. You
Yeah.
know, girls go through a lot of early emotional development, body development, everything. So they're very vulnerable at 13, even
Hmm.
younger.
Hmm.
So yeah, I don't know, but
I
it's
mean, a lot of
heartbreaking.
teenagers, I mean, think of me as a teenager. Like, my friends were most important to me above
Yeah.
anything. Like, I just wanted to
Yeah.
do my cheerleading and hang out with my friends, you know?
Oh, I forgot to tell you. I don't know if you saw it yet on Netflix, but the case of Natalia Grace, there's
Hmm.
another season.
Yes, it's her story, right? Like, follows up with her.
Well, it follows up. Remember the
Oh,
last
it just ends.
episode?
Yeah, the couple that she just moved in or just recently adopted her
Hmm.
were like, take her back.
Yes, and it turns out that they are manipulators
Uh-uh.
for her money and they stole everything. So it was all an act. It was all an act. In fact, the mother was arrested for child abuse. It was you have to watch it because it comes
Not
full
for her
circle.
though,
And
because she's technically an adult when she's living with them. Right. Yeah.
no, but she was manipulated and groomed not to say anything, and you can see that she definitely has some issues like with her personality because she
Sure.
definitely portrays one different person as opposed to what you see behind closed doors, and she's been through a lot, so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
her way of protecting herself. But yeah, it's interesting. You would like it. All
Mm.
right, so let's get into my case today. I have to warn you, this case is extremely graphic and disturbing. This
Yay.
is not like any other true crime case. This is one of the most horrific and senseless crimes in Hong Kong's history, also known as the Hello Kitty murder.
Mm.
So buckle up because this one is going to be a nightmare cat. Have you ever heard of this?
No,
Oh,
I
I've
haven't.
heard of it. I never dug in like this. And I'm like, oh, wow, my
How do
Lord.
you feel now that you did dig in?
I regret it, but I'm going to tell you the story anyway. Okay.
Well, you got to. We're here.
Well, yeah. If I have to live this trauma, so do you.
I'm with you. Let's
Okay.
ride the roller coaster.
All right. Well, on May 24th, 1999, a 14-year-old girl walked into a Hong Kong police station. We will call her Fawn A to protect her identity. So Fawn A is the equivalent of us saying John Doe.
Okay.
Or Jane Doe. Like that's China's John Doe,
Fawn.
Jane Doe, Fawn A. So she was alone and visibly distressed. She approached the officers with this eerie request. She needed their help because she was being haunted. At first, the officers brushed her off, assuming it was a teenage girl. She was overacting. She had a big imagination.
Mm-hmm.
But as she continued, her story took a horrifying turn. She told them that she was being haunted by the ghost of a woman, bound in electrical wires, blood smeared across her face, and watching her every move. Then she dropped the bombshell. She stated she wasn't just seeing a ghost, she was being haunted because she had helped torture and murder the woman that was haunting her.
And she's 14.
She's 14.
Wow.
Yeah. She also told police she wasn't alone in this crime. There were at least 3 men involved: Chan, 34, a triad member, a drug dealer, and his 2 accomplices. The police were skeptical. A ghost, a murder, but then Fawn A led them to her apartment, where they found the ultimate horror.
Mm.
Inside her apartment, she led them to a giant Hello Kitty mermaid plush doll. So it's like one of those extra large
Huge,
Hello
yeah.
Kitty
Yeah.
plushies,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like a mermaid one with the tail. When the officer was examining the plushie, he noticed that there was something hard in the head part of the plushie. When he pulled it apart, out came a human skull. Yeah. The skull was
So she didn't say anything when she handed it to him. She's just like, here.
She didn't hand it to him. The plushie was actually sitting like on her bed, and she just opened the door for the police and pointed at it. Like,
okay, but she still pointed it out as far as like not handed to him, but like just over there.
yeah.
Wow.
I have a picture of this initial discovery, and
Mhm.
you could tell there's there's something very wrong with the doll. Like, there's blood all over it, and
okay.
you could tell that it's all, The skull was of a woman named Fan Menyi. Who is Fan? Who is Fawn A? What
Mhm.
happened? How did her dismembered head end up sewn in a Hello Kitty doll? Well, let's get into it.
Yeah.
Born on February 25th, 1976, in China, Fan Menyi's life was one of hardship from the very beginning. She was abandoned by her parents at a young age, and she was placed in an all-girls orphanage in Hong Kong.
Mm-hmm.
The orphanage was overcrowded and underfunded, offering very little terms for stability and warmth. Fan never had the opportunity to be adopted, and she was turning 15. And at the age of 15, they force you out and just, just make a life, do whatever you need.
Yeah.
No money, no nothing. They just open the door and kick you out.
Yeah.
With no education, no job prospects, no support system, Fan struggled to make ends meet. Fan Menyi began using drugs, crystal meth, and other illicit substances to just cope with her harsh reality. Her addiction led her into the world of petty crime and sex work, both of which became a way for her to fund her drug use. Fan had few friends, and all of them were acquaintances from the world of sex work and drug addiction.
Mm.
However, she did have a small group of women she trusted in a particular brothel, and they got her a job there and she started working. So I guess it is better than walking the streets. So she has a roof over her head, but she's still a sex worker.
Mhm.
Fan
Yeah.
married a man named Wang Chi Hang while working at the brothel. So he was like one of her customers and he fell in love with her and he ended up marrying her. She was
Okay.
only 20 years old at the time. The marriage was far from stable. Her husband was also a drug addict,
Mm.
and their relationship was marred with frequent domestic violence. Neighbors often reported loud arguments, and it was clear that Fan was in a dangerous environment once again.
Mhm.
On November 2nd, 1998, she gave birth to a son, and it was this event that pushed her to make change. She made the decision to leave her husband, hoping to make a
Mhm.
better life for her child. So she couldn't do it for herself,
Mhm.
but she can at least do it for her kid. And she really did try to clean up her act
Mhm.
with drugs and stop
Mhm.
using it. But once again, like she doesn't have any support system here other
Right.
than the brothel.
Right.
Despite periods of sobriety, the struggle with addiction remained a significant part in her life and ultimately played a role in her association with with dangerous individuals.
Mhm. Well, when you struggle, you kind of fall back to what you know
Right.
and what's
Yeah.
worked, even though you didn't really care for it, at
No.
the time, but you do what you can when you're desperate. So
Right.
if it worked
And when
before, why wouldn't it work again? And yeah.
when you're feeling down and out, it's real easy for an addict to reminisce about that hit that made them happy.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that one, so yeah,
It didn't
it's a
fix their
cycle.
problems, but it made them forget it for a while.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, struggling financially and with limited options, she found herself in the orbit of Chan Man-luk. Chan was born on November 6, 1964, in Hong Kong. Very little is known about his early family, but he grew up in a rough environment that eventually led him into organized crime.
Mm-hmm.
As a teenager, he became affiliated with the Wu Xing Wu Triad, one of the most notorious criminal organizations in Hong Kong.
I just keep thinking Wu-Tang.
Oh yeah, that's a great band. I went to school with
Wu-Tang
them.
Clan. You
Yeah,
did? Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, in New York.
in
A while ago.
Shaolin, Staten Island.
Yeah, Staten Island.
Now, by his early 20s, he had established himself as a drug dealer, primarily selling meth, and he was also involved in illegal gambling and prostitution rings. This guy sounds like a charmer, let me tell you.
That's all.
Chan was known for his manipulative and controlling nature. He surrounded himself with young, impressionable girls whom he groomed and forced into sex work.
Mm-hmm.
In his sick and twisted mind, he used a tactic to lure younger girls in, and this was to place Hello Kitty memorabilia all throughout his house. And this
So
is
they
where the
would like,
Hello Kitty comes in.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like the candy. That's the candy. Now,
Yeah.
during the late 1990s, Hello Kitty was an immensely popular character in China and across Asia. Originating in Japan, Hello Kitty had become a cultural icon, symbolizing innocence, cuteness, and youthfulness. The character was particularly adored by young girls and teenagers, making it a common sight in homes, stores, entertainment venues. This made his use of Hello Kitty even more shocking, as he took something associated with purity and childhood and just flipped it upside down.
Yep.
Chan was a leader to his small group of degenerates, including Li Young Shin Chao and Liang Wan Loon, who carried out his violent orders. So this is like his hit squad. These are his henchmen, these two guys. Chan was a deeply sadistic individual with no regard to human life. Those who crossed him suffered unimaginable consequences. Now, Fan met Chan at a nightclub where she worked. I wouldn't recommend somebody who has a drug addiction or is trying to get over a drug addiction to work at a nightclub or anywhere near a bar. Or I used to have a friend that suffered with alcoholism in the early times, like this is 20 years ago, and I remember they were like going to the meetings and getting support and help, but they also moved into an apartment above a bar. And I remember the sponsor would always say like, what are you doing? Like you can't be even that close to alcohol, like
just
even
because of the
that close.
temptation. Yeah.
Right.
I actually
Um,
knew somebody who also was a recovering alcoholic who was a bartender.
oh my God,
But
that's crazy.
tell you how strong she was, like
Yeah,
being knowing what it does and seeing what it does to people
right.
every night. She's
Yeah.
that only kind of confirmed the sobriety in her,
Oh,
which
good.
I think is
Okay.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, that is amazing. She was impressed because he was a powerful triad member,
Mhm.
but he was also a pimp and a drug dealer. Initially, their relationship was all about business. But one night, in a desperate attempt to gather some money because she was struggling, Fan stole Chan's wallet, which contained
Ooh.
about 4,000 Hong Kong dollars, which is
Mhm.
roughly like $500.
Mhm.
Chan found out almost immediately. He demanded that she pay back the stolen amount and also an additional 10,000 Hong Kong dollars in interest, which is $1,200 USD.
Like 3,000% almost. Am I doing math? Am I mathing math? Is my math making sense?
I don't know. You're asking the wrong person.
More, I mean, more than doubled, almost tripled.
Yeah, he was just, you know what? She was wrong for taking the money,
Sure. Yeah.
but she did pay him back when she was caught. But for him to do that was, I don't know. But like I said, she did pay him back the initial 500 that she stole, but she was
Mhm.
struggling to come up with the rest of the money. And Chan lost his patience. On March 17th, 1999, he sent his two henchmen and Fawn A to abduct Fan from her home.
Mm.
Now, who's Fawn A?
Mhm.
Fawn A is the 14-year-old girl who was involved in the crime. She was the one that went to the police department.
Right.
She first met Chan through his illegal activities as a known trafficker and pimp. Chan
Mhm.
regularly recruited vulnerable young girls. Fawn A, whose real name has been withheld for legal reasons and to
Sure.
protect victims, was introduced to Chan when she was 13 years old. She was manipulated and groomed by him, becoming both a victim and a participant in his dark operations. He treated her as both a girlfriend and a subordinate,
Mm.
forcing her into the world of abuse and control.
Mhm.
The two men and Fawn A took Fan to a rundown apartment. Initially, the plan was to force her into prostitution to pay back the debt, but
Mhm.
soon the plan changed. Instead, they turned Fan into a human plaything.
Mm.
Over a month, Fan was subjected to unimaginable torture. She was beaten daily with metal bars, kitchen utensils, and furniture pieces. The men would burn her with melted plastic. So, in other words, like, those plastic straws?
Yeah, yeah.
They would burn it, let it drip on her
Like
skin,
when it hardens, it's
peel it
stuck.
off. They
Ugh.
would peel it off when it
Oh, they would peel it
hardens.
off. Oh my God, after. Okay.
Or gets worse. They would also drip candle wax on her skin.
Mhm. Mhm.
And once she had like wounds, they would take chili oil and rub it in her open wounds.
Oh my
They
gosh.
also put chili oil, they would drop chili oil in her eyes.
Mm. Mm.
It's just torturous.
Yeah.
They also hung her from a ceiling fan by electrical wires, leaving her suspended for hours at a time. They urinated on her and forced her
Mm.
to consume their excrement, which is disgusting. I know,
Mm.
so dark. The abuse became a form of entertainment for them. Even Fawn A, the 14-year-old girl, participated.
Mhm.
When asked why she was participating in this, she gave a chilling response to police officers. She said, I had a feeling it was for fun. So she's so young that she isn't sure if this is fun or not. She just knows it's expected of her and
Mhm.
they seem to be having fun. So I guess I should be doing this too. This
Mhm.
this person has been groomed and manipulated and
Oh
broken
yeah.
down.
Yeah.
It's just, oh my God.
Mm.
Now, as the weeks passed, Fan became unrecognizable. The torture had left her so disfigured that even if they wanted to continue forcing her into sex work, no one would have paid for her services.
Ah, sure.
She was now nothing more than a human punching bag.
Mhm.
Then one day, she simply stopped moving. On April 15th, 1999, Fan Manyi succumbed to her injuries. The
Mm.
men showed no remorse. Instead of disposing of her body immediately, they left her in the apartment for days,
Mm.
casually playing video games in the next room. Eventually, they decided they needed to get rid of the body, get rid of the evidence. They brought the body over to the bathtub and dismembered her piece by piece.
Mm-hmm.
And they all agreed that they cannot just throw body parts in the trash because the smell, they would get caught.
Mm-hmm.
So they decided to boil her remains piece by piece in
Oh.
a large part to prevent decomposition and the smell, the odor. This was in their main kitchen in the apartment. And this is gross, but they continued to use this kitchen for just regular cooking.
Mm.
And they ate meals using the same utensils and pots that they were boiling her body parts in. Like it didn't phase them at all that what they were doing.
So cannibalism by proxy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her internal organs were stored in a refrigerator, while her teeth were found scattered on the floor. But her skull, they boiled that till the meat came off and the jawbone detached. And they sewed it into a Hello Kitty mermaid doll, which they had around the apartment because everything was Hello Kitty.
Mm-hmm.
And then they forced Fawn A to take it with her and place it in her room. Fawn A was deeply affected by what she had witnessed and participated in. While she had initially been manipulated and groomed by Chan, it was believed that the overwhelming guilt of Fan Manyi's torture and death began to weigh heavily on her, experiencing vivid nightmares, hallucinations, claiming that Fan's spirit was haunting her, unable to bear the psychological torment. 6 weeks later, Fawn A walked into the Hong Kong police station. So it took 6 weeks for her to come there.
That's a lot of mental torture too. I mean, just that trauma. She's
14. Yeah.
Post-traumatic stress disorder. I mean,
yes.
After being part of that, that's part of the things that you get, or that, subsequent to an event like that, those are some of those side effects.
Flashbacks. She's getting flashbacks, waking up and absolutely. Yep. Wow. So on May 24th, 1999, she confessed to everything. Her testimony was a critical part of bringing Chan and his accomplices to justice. In her apartment, police noticed an overwhelming stench of decay. So this is when they first entered. The police reported the unit was filthy, littered with rotten food, cigarette butts, and remnants of drug paraphernalia. As they searched the rooms, in the bedroom is where they found the Hello Kitty mermaid doll. Oddly, they said it was out of place. Like it was so weird. Like everything was just a mess. And then you had this odd, huge, plushy
life-size Hello Kitty doll
just staring at you. And if you look at it, it's I guess it was cleaner than its surroundings, but it wasn't clean by any means. I mean, you could tell it was all,
Yeah.
Chan, along with his 2 henchmen, were arrested 4 days later in a dramatic raid. They weren't going down easy. The trio showed no remorse for Fan and stated that she had died of a drug overdose. Don't blame them. However, the sheer brutality of the evidence suggested otherwise. Fawn A's testimony became crucial in restructuring the events. So forensic specialists worked tirelessly on extracting DNA from the limited remains that were confirmed to be her body, and they did identify it as Fan. The trial began on December 4th, 2000 in the High Court of Hong Kong. The prosecution, led by senior Crown Counsel John Redding, he detailed the shocking, brutal infliction upon Fan Mei, emphasizing the systematic torture, sexual abuse, and gruesome disposal of her body. The defense, however, argued that Fan's death was not intentional, but that was the result of drug overdose. A claim that the lack of a body and the official cause of death made it difficult to disprove. So they were like, there's no body. You got body parts.
But I mean, you can't live without your head.
I know.
So I mean, I could see that, like, if there's been cases too that basically says just because you found this guy's lower leg,
right,
it doesn't mean that they're dead.
Right. Tampering with, well, we have different, I guess, laws here.
Yeah. But I'm like, you can't live without your head.
Right. So the court heard the testimonies, including that of Fawn A. Now, the 14-year-old provided key details of the murder. In one of her confessions, she stated that she witnessed Chan kicking Fan in the head over 50 times until he turned to her and demanded that she do the same. She stated that she did not kick her, but she slapped her while she was on the floor. Fan A stated she was confused about what to do, but so she did what she was told to do.
Sure. I mean, she could be next.
Yeah. Her testimony painted a horrific picture of the torture inflicted upon Fan Mei. Despite the overwhelming evidence of brutality, the defense was able to argue against the murder conviction due to the medical examiner's inability to determine the exact cause of death. Because of this, on January 12, 2001, the three men were convicted of manslaughter rather than murder. The judge sentenced all three men to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 20 years. He described the crime as incomprehensibly cruel and stated that while there was no clear proof of intent to kill, there was ample evidence of sadistic torture beyond human understanding.
Yeah.
The court also convicted all of them of unlawful imprisonment, which carried an additional penalty. Fawn A, due to her cooperation and her young age, was granted immunity from prosecution. In 2011, Leung Shin Chow was released on parole after serving 12 years. However, in 2022, he was rearrested for sexually assaulting a 10-year-old girl and sentenced to an additional 12 months in prison. He should have never been let loose.
No.
As of 2024, Chan and Leung Wayne Loon remained behind bars, but are eligible for parole hearings. The prospect of their potential release continues to evoke public outrage and fear in Hong Kong.
Yeah,
it really should.
Yeah.
Following Fan's tragic death, her son, her baby, Wong Kai Ming, was left orphaned at just 6 months old. With no immediate family to care for him, he was placed under the care of social services in Hong Kong. Due to the high-profile nature of the case and the concerns for his safety, authorities kept his identity and whereabouts private. It is believed that he is either placed in foster care or adopted by a family outside of the public eye. There has been no public record of his life after this case, as officials try to protect him from the media scrutiny and potential trauma. Oh God! Like,
I mean, I can like with an adoption. I mean, that's you change the name anyway. You know,
it's just sad that he's living the life his mother got out of. He's in the system just like his mother was. I really hope he was adopted.
Yeah.
After the trial, people flocked to the apartment building, convinced that Fan's spirit still lingered. Paranormal enthusiasts and thrill seekers attempted to communicate with her, turning the crime scene into a makeshift shrine. The hauntings became so infamous that in 2012, the building was demolished. In its place, a hotel stands now. Many believe that the land remains cursed, so people were just not respecting that. They were just trying to, I don't know. It's like that case from, what's that hotel? The Cecil Hotel?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, people just want to get in there and kind of do their paranormal thing. And I love paranormal hunting, but I can also see if you're not, it could be, you got to be sensitive. You got to be sensitive about it.
Yeah.
The Hello Kitty murder is not just a ghost story. It's a real life horror story that exposes the dark corners of the human soul. Fan Mei's life, tragic from the start, but she did not deserve what happened to her. It seems like she just one tragedy after another.
Yeah.
And while her killers may still be behind bars, the justice system failed her in so many ways, I feel, in this case. Like, I don't know.
Well, the government, really, because at 15, and I imagine the orphanages is probably state-sponsored or government-sponsored, and, you know, there's only so much money, which is probably why they have the rules that they do about at the age of 15, you know what? Happy birthday, here you go. You're an adult, go figure it out. So I imagine that
almost like they create the situation where children can get trafficked and do need to work at a brothel. It's almost like that's
I almost think that's worse than the people who actually killed her, because it set her up in her life for that to happen.
Yeah.
Not saying all of them, not saying it happens to everybody, but you get, you know, you get enough shit happen to you, you might start smelling like it.
Yeah. So, Kat, I leave you with this question. What does justice truly look like in cases like this? For instance, her son. Is this something that he should be sheltered and protected from, knowing? Or is this something that the authorities should be honest with him when he's ready of what happened to his mom? I feel like he should never know.
Yeah, I feel, I would say being only 6 months old going into the orphan, he's not going to remember. He's not going to really know. And hopefully, especially with the type of publicity and media coverage on it, that he was hopefully able to get adopted right away, change his name, and the child would have no inkling of it
Yeah.
whatsoever and would have no idea. Maybe tell him he was adopted, but we don't know where,
Yeah.
closed adoption. We can't find out who it's from, where he came from, or
It's
but
so
I don't know.
sad. I just feel like that, just knowing if he ever found out what happened to his mom would be just so heartbreaking.
Mhm.
On top of what's even more heartbreaking is Fan's legacy. Her only family was that boy.
Mhm.
That's her only family, her only connection to this world.
Mhm.
And it's best that he doesn't know what happened to her.
Mhm.
And that just breaks my heart.
Yeah.
Like, she deserved
The way DNA is nowadays,
know.
even for just fun or like figuring out your lineage, that shit happens all
Yeah.
the time. Like, holy shit, this dad is not like my real dad. There's no
Yeah.
possible way. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it could be an instance where it's a forced to tell
Yeah.
him, kind of thing, which is also pretty shitty because at what age, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That's
That's sad.
sucks.
So that's my Hello Kitty case, Cat. It's pretty gruesome, but yeah.
Pretty horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, horrible.
But
Horrible.
that's about it.
I'm laughing because it's uncomfortable.
I know. Well, because we don't leave you hanging, chatters, for more information on this case, please check out After That Crime Chat, only available on Patreon.
And don't forget to follow us, Crime Chat with Nat Cat, on all of our socials, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and X. See what we got going on.
Remember, Crime Chat with Nat and Cat, when you become a VIP chatter to our Patreon, you'll have access to bonus episodes, behind the scenes, bloopers, and free merch. And check out some merch in the works.
Yes, and check out our next episode. Okay.
Mm.
So, with the original one I was going to do next, I'm pushing that to our bonus episode of Into the
Okay.
Unknown.
Oh, okay.
But I'm going to be covering a story and hot topic, especially around my neck of the woods. So, you'll have to wait and see.
When you say hot topic, you mean like current events, or you mean like the store Hot Topic?
Current events.
Okay.
Does this hot topic even exist anymore?
No,
Do
but I used to
malls
love
even
it.
exist anymore?
I used to love that store.
Me too. I used to have to, because you grew up in Naples, we used to have to go to the Fort Myers Mall because Naples
Right.
didn't have a Hot Topic.
Yeah.
We had to go, and I worked at the mall in Naples. We had to go to Fort Myers if I wanted to go to Hot Topic or anything like that. Spencer's.
Oh, yeah. Spencer's the gag gifts. They had really good gifts.
Yep. Yeah. Anyway.
Well,
Yeah.
you-
So, Hot Topic, the event, as a
Okay.
current event, not the store.
Oh, all right. Yeah, but that was a nice trip down memory lane. So anyway, you don't want to miss it, chatters.
We'll see you next time. Bye.